Dakota. Another historic day, right? Another historic day. So I kept waiting. I couldn't wait to actually go through. We go through these ceremonies. These ceremonies are important. It's part of our tradition. It's part of what makes us a professional organization. I hope you paid attention what just happened with the guidon just there. The guidon, as he says, signifies our unit. Pass it to the outgoing, to me, and then to the incoming. It's how we show that who now has command, who now has responsibility. And again, these ceremonies, as much as you see them, everybody at ease a little bit, at ease, seriously, at ease. I want y'all to be able to hear what I'm saying. These ceremonies are important that we keep them within our organization, that we keep this tradition going, because it makes us a professional organization. It means we don't forget who we are. Okay? Professionalism, there's no one more professional than the United States military. And I can tell you, after serving and working, not serving, but working with all the other branches out there, there's no one more professional than the United States Army. I know that because it's indicative of a lot of the doctrines that we write, a lot of the way we practice. We're the oldest of them all. And a lot of it's borrowed from the other branches of what we do. Captain Cadenhead took command of this company about a couple months before I took command of the battalion, I believe. Was it December? It was December, okay, so we were right at the 2-year mark. And I took command in March. Immediately, within 2 months, pandemic. We all know that, right? We all lived it. We all lived it. Immediately, I think y'all went straight over to, well, you went to a lot of areas, but you also had to go to Millersville, the hospital in Millersville. Big area to start doing disinfection and cleaning. That job is not something that we normally do, right? We don't normally do that. But because we're a professional organization, we're the only ones to be able to do it. To do infection control teams. To adapt ourselves. It's a heck of a way to start off a command during the middle of a pandemic, isn't it? Yes, sir. It's a heck of a way to do it. But through your leadership and the great soldiers standing in front of us, we were able to execute it. Then, no one saw that one coming. And then we dealt with the unfortunate times, and it happens, guys, in any democratic nation you find out there. We had civil unrest. Series of events culminating to one major event built our nation into a state of frustration that it was time to protest. Unfortunately, protests can get excited. You have what's called a fickle crowd, and emotions get high, and protests can then lead to civil unrest. When we had civil unrest, we had to drop these Tyvek suits, all of a sudden go through a couple of hours of civil disturbance training, which we haven't done in years. Had to get you trained as fast as we could. We actually took the time. We were supposed to report up to Atlanta right away, and we said, no, we're going to take the time and get some training done. And then beat feet up to Atlanta with a trail of tears of vehicles breaking down every so often. Identified a problem we had. But you were the first ones to get up to Atlanta. And I remember, I'll never forget, when it was time to come up there to go to Atlanta, I knew it right away. It wasn't the whole battalion was getting called up right away, but I knew right away. They said, who's going to be our ground force commander? Because right now, at the time, it was just a company team. And the first person I thought of right away, I called him then the S3 was, the XO was Major Walton. And Captain Savard, I know you were there. I said, on James Cadenhead, to lead that company team, to lead the battalion, to go to Atlanta. And immediately I knew through his background and through your A-type personality that you have, that you were going to find out. I can't even give you the guidance. I just knew that we need to get up there and have a presence to secure the capital. And he went up there, just that guidance. Immediately made communications with the law enforcement that's on the ground there. Found a place to stage at, which I think we ended up staging at the Judicial Center. And figured out how to tie our forces in with the civil authorities. That's why they call it DSCA, Defense Support for Civil Authorities. And Amy, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Already we pulled away, James, for pandemic, and now we're pulling away up to Atlanta to go take care of this. And I started thinking about that as I was thinking about all the times that we became operational, and immediately I started thinking about the families. The real heroes of our organization is the families at home. And Amy, I really appreciate your time. You allowed us to have James Bill to have this opportunity to lead, because we've asked a lot. Command asked a lot. So you and your family, kids, you got 5 of them here. Number 6 is, okay, that's right. I know where number 6 is at. Thank y'all so much. Here we were in Atlanta, tied in, and we started executing. You had a breach of vehicle, didn't you? Yes. Sorry, Amy. I'm so sorry. You told me that's why I want to reflect on this. I want to take the time to reflect on this, because that's the commitment that we were into. We didn't know what we was getting into. And through your leadership, you got us up there, secured the capital as fast as we could. Problem solve them immediately.
Yes, sir.
And then we had to shift to go to Centennial Olympic Park. And let me tell you another example of the leadership that Captain Caden has shown us. As we're there at Centennial Olympic Park, as I'm on the ground there, and we're tying in, and I think 221 was the main effort there, because they had all the riot gear. Was it 221?
311.
No, not out of the battalion, out of the
201st
state.
Military Police.
201st.
Yes, sir.
201st on the south side of Centennial Olympic Park was supposed to show up there. And they were late. Y'all remember at 2100 hours, we boxed in that little corner, and we closed in because they were past curfew. We had to arrest them. We called it the culminating time. We called it the culminating moment. And 201st didn't show up. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? I'm standing there, and there's a big gap in the road. I look over at James, Captain Cadenhead, and he's like, we got it. Started calling his soldiers over. We're going to assume risk down here at the southern part of the Centennial Park, and we're going to use our soldiers through this line. We probably took maybe less than a platoon-sized element that was supposed to be almost a battalion, just to do a narrow line right across. Where's Corden at? Working Ranger. Okay. Yeah, well, I remember him and that look on his face like, okay, we're going to put everything. Y'all remember that? Some of y'all were there, made that line. The minute that as a battalion commander, I can look at a company commander and he gives me that vote of confidence that yes, I can execute. Tells me everything I need to know. That's the kind of confidence that we need. That's the kind of leadership that we need. And that's this leadership that you've been able to provide this company. Leading the battalion in that major effort. From Capitol to Centennial Olympic Park. With little rest. We were going back and forth from Forsyth. Now, fast forward a little bit. We start getting ready for Morocco. I threw another one on us, Amy. I said, all right, we're going to train it for Africa, right? It's something we needed to do. We've been doing so much disc operations, I was afraid we was going to lose our warfighting skill. Or we were going to diminish our warfighting skill. And I wanted us to get an exercise that gave us purpose, to train up for something. And Africa was it. Right at the time, when you think at the end and we're done with Christmas, everything's great, then January 6th happened. January 6th happened. The events that took place at our nation's capital. And then we get called up this time to mobilize and go to our nation's capital. Not state capital, to our nation's capital. Once again, 212 finds itself heading up there. First foot was called first, and we was filling them in. I was talking to Lieutenant Colonel Johnson, And as we started talking a little bit more and we saw the numbers growing, we said, you know what? We need to split this off and it needs to be 2 battalions. And that's exactly what we did. At that same time, you talking about an operational battalion, I sent Captain Stafford by his own lonesome to go to Africa. He's on the plane going to Africa while we're loading buses to go to Washington, D.C. as he's preparing to go to Morocco and plan that exercise in Morocco. And we go to D.C. with 1st Battalion. And because 1st Battalion and 2nd Battalion show up there with the presence of operational battalions, we got moved from being in the Washington Mall. I don't know if y'all knew that. I was part of the planning conferences. We were reported to we didn't report to Task Force Capital, reported to a different task force that was going to be around the mall area. When we showed up with 2 infantry battalions of over 1,100 soldiers, all of a sudden we got shifted that very day after we received the op order. Right after the op order was over with, we got to say, hey, you're getting moved over to Task Force Capital under this brigade commander. And then as we show up at Task Force Capital and we go inside, sitting inside the chambers of our leaders, we was in the Veterans Chamber at the time, Veterans Committee Chamber. They saw 2 infantry battalions and said, you're going to be in front of the podium. As we're planning there, myself and Lieutenant Colonel Johnson says, we got it. We'll take Section 1 and 2. I'm going with this because at that point when we had Section 2 and Lieutenant Grumley, you was in Section 1, you was in the northern side and we had the southern side. Remember the news how we couldn't go back into the Capitol? Well, you're talking about a problem solver. Captain Cadenhead says, hey sir, there's a parking garage over here we can put people in to stay warm. I'm laughing because little did I know that parking garage was going to end up being major national news with our patch on it on CNN and Fox News. Yeah, that's him. He found the problem solving. Problem solving. Again, your leadership was just immediately just trying to solve the problem. Accept what situation you're in and figure out how to execute the mission. Because we were all getting tired of being packed up inside that botanical garden. All right? Now, that ended up being not the most uneventful thing that ever happened, other than us getting cold. But nonetheless, we were there. Our presence was there. We were in the front. The Georgia Army National Guard, 2nd Battalion 121, 48th Brigade, 1st Battalion 121. I point because Lieutenant Grumley was there with 1st Battalion. Now, come back from that. We asked for you that we haven't forgot about Morocco. After all you've taken time away, I'm pulling the chains. We got to still train up for Morocco. We got to go back to our warfighting skills. Captain Stafford goes back over there for a 2nd time. He did his favorite restaurant. No, he was planning, when he started planning this thing, he says, all right, there's a culminating exercise, Combined Arms Fire. And it's big. It's stretched across the desert, several kilometers. And it's going to be the biggest frontal assault you've ever seen. Oh, by the way, sir, our Delta Company is going to be part of it. Led by this guy. He actually asked me, he said, sir, you want to be in front? You want to lead this? I said, no, I don't. I'm not going to take that away from Captain Cadenhead. You're probably thinking, really, sir, thanks. You know? I wasn't going to take that away from him. You are the weapons company. You are our motorized company. And I knew from everything that we've asked, from pandemic to civil unrest, through our train-ups, to the gunner that you shot, I knew you didn't need a battalion commander up there. You need to just be your company and fall in with all these other Moroccan and Senegalese units. And execute that culminating exercise. Now, I'm not taking away from all the training you did prior to that, out there in Morocco as well. And oh, by the way, you talking about somebody who always kept training out there. You remember this? Delta Company, you guys were always out there. Running and running and running. To a point that I think you're probably the most efficient weapons company we have throughout the state as far as doing gunnery. I went away with units, do gunnery all the time, and I'd hold this company right now up against any unit that went away as far as doing gunnery. Because of how much through your leadership, through your execution, and through the leadership of everyone that's inside these ranks right here, how you trained for it, how you took it serious. You didn't allow yourself to lose the motivation from all the other crazy things that we had to do. You didn't lose focus, and you were ready to execute. That's leadership. So for that, I think we're forever in your debt of what you've been able to do with the Valdosta Armory. So thank you. And thank you, Andy. Lieutenant Grumman, we'll bring you in going.